Welcome to Public Service Announcement PSA. Texas legislation is changing. There are mass majorities and casualties involved in the Department of Family Protective Services that leave children in their care unaccounted for, dead, lost, hurt, torn, and irreconcilable with biological families and lack of community support by the ages of 18. Now, these comments are not from me, but from governors' offices, policymakers' desks, and from the media. The outcry for change in Texas is enormous. Be a part of the change. Our premium listeners have the honor of watching the legislative processes before their own eyes. Normally, this is a difficult process that includes updates, floor hearings, conversations, and bills between the House and the state. Texas is inexhaustible but willing to change. That's where we become involved. Download our white pages and follow the process. We will go through the technicals, mechanics, and life-changing cases that affect you in your state and 13 others. Texas is leading. If change hasn't come to your state, if networks, federal dollars, state paraprofessionals, and special interests have caught your family between a rock and a hard place, this too is why we are here. Start a campaign for your family. Learn more at
whff radio.
Hi, this is Dr. Akeleka. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am your host, and I am really excited to bring to you this particular piece of content just because, and I'm clicking through here because I always have to get ready. I don't know why I start broadcasting before I am ready on my computer and systems and stuff like that. I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me not to be able to click through some stuff while I'm talking to y'all. That makes no sense to me. I should be able to click through. So it's my thing, okay? It's my thing as host. I always start the broadcast and then I go get my tea, I rest, I drink some water, and I do this. You know, you're part of my get ready crew. So I have to broadcast and then I can kind of get myself ready and things of that nature. So I'm really excited because we were just, and I just want to make sure everything else is muted except the broadcast. We were just mentioned in U.S. politics today. We've been mentioned in Afro News. We've been mentioned in Black Facts magazine. And we've been mentioned in Fox News. Yay! Woohoo! I'm so happy for my team. Well, I'm happy for myself too. We are getting ready. Okay, so here's a summation of what's going on right now, just because I have to be in a place where I always want to kind of give you hot news and hot tips, but hot news and hot tips is always my opinion. So even if I give you the facts, I'm going to give you my opinion. Let me get a drink here. So instead of doing that, I just prefer not to give hot news and hot tips. I just prefer to stick to the facts. And if it's any kind of opinion, it's the opinion of the company and the organization. So here's the latest update. Because we were mentioned in these news outlets, we have really, I don't know what I was saying because I had to put you on hold and take a call for a second, but I'm back. Maybe I'll put a little commercial there. I don't know. So we were mentioned with WHFF News, in these outlets because of the casting call that we have coming up. And I have a major news interview coming up before the end of the year. We haven't set the date yet, but a news media outlet person has contacted me and kind of wants to set up an interview. And I'm really excited about it. So this latest news posting just talks about the restoration of families. And I always am particular. Y'all know I've been a philanthropist for over 30 years now. And I've always been particularly interested in the restoration of families because I come from a place of brokenness. And it does affect and impact your entire life when you have a hard time connecting. And I hate to say you have a hard time connecting like quote unquote normal people. After the pandemic, I don't think anyone is normal. So I'm still in recovery phase after the pandemic. So you can never, ever classify me as a normal person. That being said, there are some things that just not growing up, I felt like I missed out on, and those connections I never want to restore. I don't want to restore certain connections, but I think it's okay. So when you're an adult and you begin to try to make new connections, you're kind of behind the gun because you were not forced to make connections at one home address. You weren't at this home address where you made all of these connections because that was calculated as dysfunctional, okay? So when you grow up, you try and make these connections. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It just depends, but you are somewhat lacking. And then the anxiety kicks in, a little bit of depression here or there, mostly social anxiety. And so probably in your mid-30s, you start to say, okay, do I want these connections? If so, let me kick around the dirt and try to find these connections. And if not, let me just kiss them goodbye. And usually you just kind of kiss them goodbye because it's easier to start over at 30 and 35 with new friends and people that know who you are at this age, rather than trying to go back and heal old wounds and connect with people that didn't do you right in your preteen years, that's holding a grudge from your 18, 19, 20-year-old years. It's too much history. So I've always had a heart for people that wanted to reclaim some kind of connection because I've never wanted to. I think I've kicked those cans down the curb in my early 20s. And then when they came around again in my 30s, I was like, okay, we're not going to do this. I'm exhausted. Are you people exhausted? And I noticed that on social media. And social media lies, but some of my connections on social media, I have some really good connections on social media. People aren't interested in reconnecting, and they are reestablishing relationships where they can trust, so reestablishing connections and coming up with new connections is always interesting to me. So those parents that want to make an effort to reconnect with family or siblings and stuff like that, we're creating a space with the parenting firm so that folks can do it. So how we're setting it up, let's take a quick commercial break and then I'll tell you about the setup.
As a nonprofit doing the most good, the Breaking Generational Curses series and Healthy Families First is promoting healthy parent-child relationships when there is a kinship split. No communication, no awareness, no occasional meetings, no nothing. And our intent is an information hub for parents to approach healing and recovery in safe spaces. Our broadcast will be featured in 47 countries and all USA podcast panels. Stay tuned for an open call to beta testers, listeners, sign-ups, and support. And again, thank you for listening. Visit CIDFUND.org. That's sidfund.org.
And thank you so much for listening in. This is summer 2024. The weather feels great. Even though it's June, the weather feels so good in New England. I mean, it is just spectacularly great. It's like wearing my Daisy Dukes when I lived in the South. So that's what the weather is here like in June. So I was really having a conversation about how everything is set up. So, in the early 2000s, the Cognitive Institute was set up, where the Cognitive Institute was a safe space for recidivism, to address recidivism rates, and people coming in and out of jail, falsely accused, working with congressmen, senators, and different people and different legislators with a voice to really work with women of domestic violence and people that needed retraining and education. That has merged into online training with 144 courses, where we just opened up the Education Center. You'll find that at cid-edu.org. That's one branch of the Cognitive Institute of Dallas. The second branch of the Cognitive Institute of Dallas was actually a merger with Healthy Families First Broadcast and Media. And so with Healthy Families First Broadcast and Media, there's the TV, the streaming, and the radio. And so that is huge, and launching and doing all this great stuff. Then you just have the Cognitive Institute of Dallas that works, once again, and continues to work with adults, continues to work with parents, and continues to support parents on their journey to their new phases in life that feel like they need a little help. Well, with working with Healthy Families First, which is a TV and radio broadcasting company, we really have merged into a space of talking about disproportionality with the Department of Family Protective Services and the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services removing Black and Hispanic family children, and tearing these families and not giving the same opportunity that they give to white families for restoration, rebuilding, and things of that nature. You don't get the same amount of services. You don't get the same time. You don't have the same opportunity as white children have. And I don't think we really need to get into the politics of America, even though one of the first media outlets that contacted us was U.S. Politics Today. That was one of the first that contacted us, and they published republished our information on their platform. And so I don't want to get into politics because I'm not a politics person. I think what I think, all right, about politics. That being said, it can't be missed that reconciling parent-child relationships is missing when it comes to Black and brown families with the Department of Family Services. It seems to me that the money that is coming down from the federal government to split amongst the states are used to keep Black and brown families apart, and to reservice these children under foster care, and then to hold parents to an unreasonable punitive damage for something that could have been restored and fixed. And that's such a big break. It's such a big break. I mean, we are breaking. This country is breaking when it comes to the restoration of Black and brown families. And the bureaucracy, which includes legal gaslighting, social worker manipulation, defamation, character assassination, low income, smear campaigns, and trial bureaucracy outreach. I've had all of that happen to me. And my story is a better story than most, but presenting now, as you've gone through the healing phases, and I'm no longer in that. I spoke before Congress, the Texas legislators, before Texas congressional in a congressional hearing. I think I've spoken in about 3 or 4 congressional hearings, and I was asked to speak at one closed door congressional hearing. But this is way back in 2000 something. I'll have to look at the reports. Maybe 2016, maybe 17, and that changed my life, and it shed for me parental shame. So let's take a quick break because I want to get into parental shame before I just kind of let this go. Love you guys so much. Stay with us. At WHFF, our job is listening to you as a vendor, consumer resource, and advocate. And by closing the loop and leveraging agile frameworks, we help businesses grow organically and foster a consumer-first mindset in digital creation and content. And as a developing entrepreneur with drive and competence to start down a new path and promising future, you might know that there's something you would like to try, but not sure on how to implement. Well, guess what? That's why we're here. Give us a call.
whff radio.
So we're really in the space of parental shame, right? And so going and having conversations with legislators and really sitting down and talking to what was going on with my particular case in DFPS and some of the outrageousness that would not have happened to a family that was of a different race. It was eye-opening to see things happen at the legislative level with Department of Family Protective Services. And I got a letter from the commissioner's office. I think his name was Hank at the time. I have to Google his name. I won't Google his name right now, but I'll post the letter somewhere. And so to get a letter from the Department of Health and Human Services DFPS division saying, hey, we acknowledge that your case is kind of out of control. And then that the governor's office wrote a letter, hey, we acknowledge that your case is out of control. And so to have all that happen, what it did for me is it sparked my next phase of philanthropy that'll carry me into retirement. And it said, hey, who's fixing what you broke? Who's fixing what the federal government broke? You know, at this particular time, I have so many people mad at me in my biological family because of what happened with the kids. Yet these people spend more time with the smear campaign and character assassination than they do with restoration, right? And so for whatever reason, we know that siblings and dysfunctional family members and in-laws kind of do that. They kind of jump on any bandwagon that will suppress you. But what happened even then is that it created a space. I was able to create a space for parents to begin to heal and to do the work. If there's some need to interject in their parenting, interject. But do the work and recognize that it's not just you. You didn't break this by yourself. And let me give you an example. Foster care system has broken your generations. A parental split has broken your generations. Disappointments with how your children become has broken your generations. Handling dysfunctional biological parents and siblings has broken your generations. Narcissistic abuse, psychopathia has broken your generations. And so everybody's so quick to get into this mob-like space and then talk to your new generation and the next generation as though you're the same person that you were 30 years ago, as though you're some kind of danger to your new generations. And honestly, that's just not the case. It's just people keeping up dirt, a smear campaign, and keeping up shit. That's all that is. They're just keeping up shit. So where do you go with that? You know, what do you do with that? And what I call that, or what we call that in one of the courses that we teach, is we call that weaponizing politics, weaponizing policies, and then weaponizing your dysfunctional siblings of your past as outlets of continued narcissistic abuse. And people say, oh, well, this. And they are so quick to hold to you what nobody says you are, and what you are not, to try to then interrupt your generations. And if they would put themselves, and I'm talking about in-laws, family members, and those dysfunctional people that you left behind, if they would put themselves under the amount of pressure and damage and smear campaigning and character assassination and defamation, that the gaslighting that they put you under, put yourself under the amount of pressure that you're using to now break my generations, put yourself under that amount of pressure, they wouldn't be able to sustain. And the truth of the matter is, number one, none of it is any truth. And number two, they're broken individuals, and they see you surpassing. They see you surpassing all of the negative talk. They see you surpassing their reach. They see you surpassing with new family members and new social people in your life that don't abandon you, that don't create anxiety with you, that don't create traumatic delays. And it angers them when you separate from the dysfunction and you have children that are in foster care, or children that have been replaced from your custody into someone else's custody, like an in-law or something. These people will do anything to drag you down. You're not unsafe. You're not unhealthy. You're not doing anything that establishes that something is broken in you. It is far, 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 far from the truth. And what's happening is that from your estranged children, you've spent some time and grown. You've spent some time and healed. And you've spent some time getting out of the reach of what broke you. And then when you rebuild a life with your truth and your people in your life that support you, that love you and are there for you, when you rebuild all that, what you fail to realize is that the people that broke you in the past are still there, breaking your new children. Trying to make an effort to do that, trying to gossip with your estranged children, trying to overplay their hand in your card, trying to have long-lasting damage in your reputation and in your life because they've stayed stagnant. And let's be serious. Let's be real. They can't move forward because they're so busy trying to create stagnation in your life. Let's just be honest about it. That's what's going on. And so when we put together this casting call, the article that we put out, or the blast that we put out, was talking about how with healthyfamiliesfirst.tv, whff.tv is sponsoring restoration of Black families and Hispanic families. And it just kind of picks up. And so we're excited to do this casting call. We're excited to put this out here. We're excited to make connections with families. And we're excited to do a selection call where the committee sits together and say, what are we going to do? How are we going to patch these families together? And which 13 families are we going to position for 2025 to bring into now Netflix and Hulu and Amazon and promote their story and talk about what happened in their life? So So here's what we're doing. We're helping families work out the legal aspects of telling their story. We're helping them with creating a social media plan. We're choosing what platforms will work best for their story, meaning Netflix, Hulu. I think there's 57 platforms that we're looking at, all internationally, some indie platforms, some film festivals, and just whatever Peacock, stuff like that, whatever the Tubi, whatever the top 15 are in this country, and then we're expanding the reach globally. And then we're planning the media outlets for families. And then we're working with families with SEO, and then using advertising and then sucking up those advertising costs for families. So if you want to do the cast call, just look in the link below. We have this cast call out everywhere. And I can't wait until the Roku channel is up and Fire Stick is up and our app, which I'm fingers crossed will be this October. Fingers crossed, we're loading now. So that's what U.S. Politics Today wants to talk about. And that's what we're talking about with other media platforms. And we're saying, listen, we're going to get out of the gaslighting. We're going to get out of the character assassination and the dysfunction of families. And we're going to help parents work on their self-esteem and self-image, work on what they need to work on in parenting, and then tell their story their way, and then launch it out with indie films. So contact us. Look in the link below, click contact. We love you. And know that the Cognitive Institute of Dallas and with Healthy Families First understands that people need second chances, third chances, fourth chances, and fifth chances. And if you are willing to do the work as a parent that say, you know what, I have this past damage, I've fixed this past damage, but I can't seem to get away from the smear campaign of my family. I can't seem to get away from the legal gaslighting of DFPS. And like I said, we're not going to talk about the statistics of the United States and Black and brown families. I'm not even going to touch that. It is what it is. We want to help you restore where those federal dollars and agencies have left you broken, crippled, and financially disavowed. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Dr. Agalea, and you're listening to With Healthy Families First Broadcast Media.
WHFF